Hi guys, and welcome back to the big sew along, and welcome to 2024. I am thrilled to be back. I missed being here, and I am thrilled that you guys have chosen to spend a little time with me today, so thank you for that. I had a wonderful break. I did not get a lot of sewing done. I did get some done. And I hope you guys all had a great break too, no matter whatever you were doing. I hope you got a little time off over the holidays and got a chance to sort of relax and hang out with your family and whatnot. Today's video, my first video of 2024, is by special request. In my last video, actually I should go back to my last video for a second. If you guys remember, I was talking about altering this dress. This is the Cris Wood Sews Start Here top that I made in a knit. And when I was talking about putting the elastic in the hem in this and then steaming it, I forgot to say that the elastic needs to be smaller than the circumference of your hem to bring it in. The reason that you steam it is because when you sew through elastic, it gets stretched out a little bit. So you steam it so that it comes back to its original size. So the original size does need to be smaller than the circumference of the bottom, just so it brings it in a little. I realized a couple of you guys asked me that question after last week's video, and I didn't realize until I got those questions that I had neglected to say that the elastic is actually smaller than the circumference of the hem. That said, the other comment I got on that video was from CarryGirl2003, who was asking about the neckline on that Cris Wood Sews Start Here top. I can't remember exactly what she said, but she really wanted to learn to see if I had like some suggestion for lowering the neckline. And I do. I thought about it for a good long time, and I came up with two options. One of which is what I'm wearing today. This neckline is 13 inches. It's about a half an inch too wide for me on both sides. So I'm going to make my next ones 12 inches. But this top I have now made 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. I love this pattern because it's really simple, which makes it really easy to change up. And I'll show you another change up on this one in a little bit here. So the thing with this top is it's sewn together at the shoulders. You just leave an opening for your neck, and then the neck gets hemmed to the inside. So the original pattern is literally a slash neckline, and you can see there's a picture of the one I showed you in my last video. This one actually is I made this in a rayon chenille, and it really stretched out. So the neckline probably looks even bigger in that one. But in any case, it doesn't really matter. It's a straight slash neckline, which I really like, but I do get that it can be a bit uncomfortable. It can feel like it's choking you a little bit. So I came up with two options. The first one is to actually lower the neckline a little bit. And here's a picture of what this neckline that I'm wearing today looks like right here. And here's a quick video on how I did that. Alright, so we're going to lower the neckline on the Cris Wood Sews Start Here top. This is a free pattern from Cris Wood Sews, and it looks like this. The directions tell you to cut your pieces so that you have a 1-inch hem allowance at the neckline. In order to lower this neckline, you're going to need more of a hem allowance at the neckline. So I'm allowing 2 inches. That will lower my neckline 1 inch. And I'm going to do it on the front and the back, but you can do it on just the front. It doesn't really matter. The way we're going to do this is with the front side, with the right side facing up, I'm going to fold this front hem, the neckline hem, over 2 inches. And it's not going to get pressed this direction, so I don't want to put a crease in it. I'm just going to fold it and maybe finger press it if you need to get it to stay in place. I'm just going to use straight pins to hold it in place for the moment. The next thing we're going to do is find our center front. Okay, so there's my center right there. And I think that this neckline is supposed to be 13 inches. We're just going to go with 12 for demonstration purposes. So that's 6 inches on either side of my center. So that's right here. And right here. Then I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure at the center front. I'm going to measure down 1 inch from the center front. And I'm going to make a mark that is 1 inch wide. So it's a ½ inch on either side of the center front. And it's 1 inch down from the folded edge. So it should look like that. Then I'm going to take my curved edge ruler and I'm going to place it like this and just draw a curved edge so it goes right up to the corner at the shoulder or the edge of the neckline where we marked. And I am going to do it like this, but you probably want to measure and make sure you're getting it the same on both sides. You don't want one side to look completely cockamamie. So this side is going to look like, that looks about right. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm doing this on the front and the back, so I'm going to go ahead and mark my back piece too. And then I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew right along this line. From this corner to this corner. And I'm going to be sure I back tack, but I don't want to go down the edge. I want it to end right here. Okay, in retrospect, I feel like it's probably better just to make a template for the neckline because that way you can be sure it's the same on the front and the back and on the right and the left. So what I've done here is just drawn a straight line. My neckline is supposed to be 13 inches wide, so I'm going to make a mark at 7.5 inches here. My paper's folded in half, by the way. And then I want about a ½ inch at the edge to be just completely straight. So this is 1 inch down from my original mark and a ½ inch over that. You do that just so you don't have a point at the center front. And then I can match up the edge of this line with this point here. Something like that. Looks good. And then I can cut that out. And that'll be the template for my neckline. Okay? Alright, so anyways, I've already sewn this one. And it looks like this. Hopefully you'll be able to see my stitching there. I used black thread. Now, I'm going to get rid of these pins. And I'm going to go through here with a chalk marker. You don't have to trim this down. You can just leave it. I'm going to trim mine down just so you can see what it looks like when you do trim it down. We're just going to make a 1 inch mark here. I know that seam allowance is supposed to be 1 inch all the way across. And then, let's turn this way. Same thing on this side. That's 1 inch. And then I'm just going to measure from my stitch line 1 inch. And when you get to the center front, you should really be cutting nothing off. So it should look like that. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. Just like that. Okay, now we're just going to trim this excess off right along here. I said you don't have to trim this off, but I haven't tried it. Not trimming it off, I think you can do it without trimming it off. In any case, that's that. Now we're going to trim this neckline down, and I'm going to trim it pretty close to the stitching. Alright, now it looks like that. I am going to go over to my iron and I'm going to press this up. And once I've done that, I'm going to understitch this little seam allowance right here. I'm going to stitch it down, but I'm not going to go all the way to the corner. Go close, like maybe 1/2 inch away. You might be able to go all the way to the corner, but I think when I did it before, I stopped at about 1/2 inch. Okay, so this time I did understitch it all the way across, and I think that's fine. I actually think it lays flatter if you understitch all the way across. So ignore what I said about leaving the 1/2 inch at each end. Okay, so this is what it looks like. You can see that where we cut that out and made that little stitch line looks almost like a little dart. I did the same thing on the front and the back. I think you can do this just on the front and it will be fine. The next thing, well, you're going to want to finish this edge then. I'm not doing that because this is just a sample piece. But next thing we're going to do is sew the shoulder seam. So we're going to match up exactly where our stitching is. Right at that corner. For me, it's easier to sew from the edge into a point, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to finish pinning this right the way across. And we're going to go ahead and sew this with our 1 inch seam allowance. And we're going to stop right exactly at this stitching line, right where our stitching ended before. I'm going to flip mine over and do this side. And because this is a neck opening, you're going to want to be sure you do a nice strong back tack. You don't have to go crazy, but make sure that that's got a back tack in it. Alright, now we're just going to go stitch these together. From here to here, and from here to here. Okay, I've gone ahead and pressed that open straight along the back. And next all you need to do is sew this down on the outside edges, and you can see now instead of being a straight line you have a 2 inch gap there. That's because I did it on the front and the back. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to make this lower. Just remember, however much lower you're going to make it is the amount you're going to have to add to the top of your panel. So if we fold it over, it looks like that. It's still a pretty high neckline, but it's definitely lower than it was. Alright, so I hope that is helpful to you guys. I said in that video that I think you can just lower the neckline on the front, but when you cut these pieces, you cut the front and the back the same length. So in order to make it easy, so I think you can still do it on just the front, but you're still going to have the 2 inch hem on the back neck. So it's probably easier, and actually I think it's probably comfortable if you're going to lower it to just do it on both sides. It's not super low in any case. Okay. What else? So I did do another little hack to this one. This one is, I cut this one the same size as the black top that I made for the last video. Only I lengthened it this was just leftover fabric in my stash. It's a 100% rayon challis, and I just used the length of fabric that I had. And I really liked it, except that I felt like it was it needed a little something. So I stood in front of the mirror and I sort of figured out where I could put like a little pleat, and you can see in these pictures here, all I did was I literally stood in front of the mirror, lifted the bottom up to a place where it looked reasonable, pinned it in place, and then I just took it off and went to the cutting table and I measured to make sure that that pleat I made was even on both sides and that it was straight. And then I just stitched it in place. And this is what that looks like. And I really like it. Especially on a plaid, because it makes the sides hang down funny and it breaks up the plaid a little bit. And I really, really like that. Okay, and also just so you know, in this picture I am wearing this with my, I'm not going to remember it now. I'll put it here below. My Burda pants that we did the Rundholtz knee dart hack on. That's what I'm wearing here. Okay, so now for the second option. That was just lowering this 1 inch. I think, like I said in the video, I think you can go, say you wanted to lower it 2 inches, you would have to have your regular 1 inch hem allowance plus 2 inches. So you'd have to have 3 inches for your hem allowance. All of which means just reduces the amount of zero. Actually, sorry, that's so confusing. It increases the waist. Got all that backwards. It increases the waist in your project, albeit not by very much. Okay, so the next option is to do a slight cowl neck, which looks like this when it's finished. And this is how I did that. Okay, for the next version, we're going to cut our front panel and our back panel according to the directions. However, we're going to cut our front panel 2 inches wider than our back panel. So you can see here, hopefully, that I'm 2 inches wider. Now, I'm going to find the center of my back, which is right here. And again, we're going to mark out our neck opening, which is 6.5 inches. On this, I'm really just going to eyeball it. And a half is right there. And a half is right there. And we're just going to put 2 little snips in those spots. So right here and right here. We can get rid of the center pin now. We're going to take our front panel, put these right sides together. We're going to measure it from the outside edge to that snip. So we're just going to sew from there to here. And on this side, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to sew from this edge to our snip, which is right here. And you're going to go ahead and use your regular 1 inch seam allowance there. Okay, so I've sewn my shoulder seams together and I've pressed my back neckline down at 1 inch seam allowance. Because this is not going to lay flat, you're probably going to want to press this over a rounded surface like your ham, and you're going to have to fidget with it a little bit to get it to lay flat. Then you're just going to, I mean, you should have finished these edges already. These edges already. Then you're just going to go to the sewing machine and sew them down. And once you get this folded into place, it's actually not that tricky to sew it down. One thing to note, however, is because we've added 2 inches to the width of our front panel, that is going to affect the overall width of the top all the way down. You can put darts in the bottom, you can taper the bottom in a little bit on the front to account for that, or you can just leave it and have a little extra room in the body. When this is done, it will look like this. It's not a huge cowl, it's just enough to allow for a little ease. Alright, so you can see in these pictures here, this is the same, exact same pattern or non-pattern. The difference is that I changed this one. I made it a little bit more narrow. I put side slits in it and I left the sleeves off. And although I can wear this now like this, a little cardigan over it or something, I really see myself wearing this more in the spring and summertime over a slip or a slip in a pair of pants or something like that. This is also another rayon challis, and I think that the rayon challis is really nice for this particular project, although I do really like it in linen as well. Okay, this cowl neck hack just gives you a tiny bit of a drape at the front. That is easy to make bigger if you wanted to. You would do the exact same thing. You would just add more width to your front pattern piece. You just have to be aware, like I said in the video, in the tutorial, that the wider you make the top to get more cowl, the wider it's going to be overall. So you can alter that in a couple of different ways, or you could just leave it. You can see how you like it, but it would be easy enough to put, say, a couple of darts at the hem in the front, or even to taper the sides out on the front just before you sew the sides together. Again, that does increase your waist, but if it makes a dress or top you're going to wear, then I think that that's pretty minimal waist for a good top. I really like this one. Oh, I forgot to say on that one, I also reduced the size. I cut that down to what I made it so that the final measurement was 45 inches wide, which is 5 inches of ease around my hips. You can easily make this pattern bigger or smaller and really change the look of it just by doing that. Just be aware that of whichever, like if your bust is the widest part of your body, make sure you have enough ease in the bust. If your hips, in my case it would be my hips, if your hips are the widest part of your body, make sure you have enough ease to be able to move around and whatnot. Alright guys, aside from that, I have been playing around with some other zero waist patterns. I discovered a couple new ones. I'm going to try them out and let you guys know how I do with those. Next week, I am going to be showing you the Leonie dress from Liam Patterns. A couple of weeks ago, well, right before the holidays, Catherine from So Much Sewing did a video on her Leonie dress, and she then challenged me to make one. And so I did do that, and I have a few tips and a review for you guys on that for next week. Until then, I wish you all happy sewing.